This started at my dorm. My dorm building is like really old. It's been around for over 100 years. I have a pretty large dorm room with like a small little area near the front door where there's a table. I was talking to my boyfriend near this area and then went back to organizing something on the table. I originally thought he went behind me because I felt something touch my behind, like put pressure. He does this sometimes and I felt almost a presence. So I thought it was him, for only to turn and see him across the room near my bed. We brushed this off, and then the next day we had gotten in an argument and he left the room. He had went to this staircase a little far from my room and sat on the stairs. After some time, he said he heard footsteps towards his direction, then felt a presence there. He then saw a shadow that looked like mine. He then felt like almost a hand on his back. He said it felt like me. He was sad at the time and was waiting for me to talk, but when I didn't, he turned around and saw that there was nothing there. Even the shadow was gone. He then went outside to this patio area, where he said he saw something abnormally large moving in the trees violently. Well, ever since he's been experiencing things, he doesn't live with me, and all of this has happened at his house. When he was taking a shower one night, no one was awake, and the bathroom key had been lost for some time too by this point. He saw the bathroom lock turning slightly, and when he saw something scurry from under the door crack. Something similar happened to his uncle the next day. Just this past week, I was at his house and I had went to the bathroom. This was like at 3 to 4 a.m. He was in the kitchen and we were making a fruit bowl when he knocked on the bathroom door and asked if he could come in. He came in and asked if I needed him. Because he says he heard me calling for him quite loudly, I wasn't. He said it was in a certain voice I do, and it was with his nickname, only I call him. Then he asked if I could recreate how it sounded, and I tried, but I couldn't get it right. While these are just a few events, these things have been happening almost daily. Number 1, he's been feeling a presence heavily when he's sad. One time he said something tried to comfort him. It felt like me, but I wasn't there. Number 2, he's been feeling like something is in his room, kitchen, or bathroom. Number 3, his room also has a weird smell that we haven't been able to find where only his room. It smells almost like rotting or like something that has been left for too long. These are the main things that have been happening. Does anyone who knows about this kind of thing please help both me and my boyfriend figure out what this could be and why? Years ago, when I was 8, my family lived in this big weird house, kind of on the edge of a small town. The school district was in the middle of a big restructuring, so even though we were only a couple grades apart, my brother and I went to different schools and took different buses. This left me as the last person to leave in the morning and the first person to get home in the afternoon, which meant it was my job to make sure all the lights were off and the door was locked. One morning, I noticed the basement door was open and the light was on, so before I left, I turned off the light and closed the door. When I got home that afternoon, the light was on and the door was open again. I just assumed that I'd forgotten to actually take care of it when I noticed it in the morning, so I went over to turn off the light and close the door. When I got to the top of the basement stairs, I looked, and there was a big shadowy male figure towards the bottom of the staircase. I freaked out, slammed the door, and pushed a bunch of boxes against it, and then went and hid in my closet. For months, I didn't tell my family because I was positive what I had seen was a ghost and didn't think anyone would believe me. Then about a year after that incident, my mom and her boyfriend realized that small amounts of money had been going missing for months, totaling around $800 to $900, but never more than $60 at once. So we all walked around the house with flashlights, trying to figure out how they could have gotten in. Turns out some creep was climbing in through a small hole in the outside of the house, shimmying through a crawl space, then coming up into the house through the basement. Realizing I had been alone in the house with him on at least one occasion was one of the worst, most terrifying moments I've ever had. My dad and some friends got drunk and went for a drive on some back roads and were going as fast as the truck would go as teenagers. My dad was slightly less drunk than the others and eventually demanded they let him get out. They pulled over and he and one other girl got out. He and the girl started walking to town while the other 3 sped off in the opposite direction. Well, less than a mile up the road from where they got out is an extremely sharp turn, which they missed and hit a tree going pretty close to triple digits miles per hour. 2 of them died on impact, and the only reason the third survived is because they crashed in front of a house that 2 doctors lived in. The survivor was paralyzed and lost his leg and part of his arm and was in the hospital for 8 months before dying. This was in the 60s, so medical care wasn't what it is today. When I first got my permit, my dad took me to that corner to explain the importance of safe driving. It gave me goosebumps about how close he was to being in the truck. He said that the dad of the driver got what remained of the truck to be hung up in the center of town for months after to be a warning to all. Alright, so my preschool teacher, who also ended up somehow changing jobs and becoming my 11th grade English teacher, had a super interesting life. Her mother had some super famous book. Her father worked high up in the government, but enough about her family. First, let me describe her to you. She had dark hair and blue eyes. You'll see why this matters in a minute. She told this story every single year to the new students in her class. When she was younger, she was driving through Arizona on a two-way road while her boyfriend, at the time, was following behind her on his motorcycle. For those who don't live in Arizona, certain stretches of it can be quite isolated and deserted. She said that they were on a long drive. It's been about 6 years since I was in her class, so details are fuzzy. But basically, her and her boyfriend both knew the destination where they were heading by memory and eventually got separated by a few miles. A man who was behind her in a Volkswagen Beetle kept pulling up beside her into the other lane and motioning at her to pull over. She somewhat ignored him the first few times, but he kept doing it and began getting more frantic each time. She said that she believed that he spotted something wrong with her car, so she saw a parking lot off the road for a deserted gas station and pulled over. Once pulled over, she said that she instantly got an eerie feeling. The man was suspicious and kept telling her that he saw something wrong with her headlight and insisted she get out of the car so he could show her what he meant. Her boyfriend, who was a few miles behind her, eventually caught up and spotted her car at the sketchy gas station. Right as she was out of the car, her boyfriend began to pull in. As he did that, this man got into his car and sped off like his life depended on it. They later were able to identify that the man was Ted Bundy. She said she cannot imagine what would have happened to her if her boyfriend had been even another 3 miles behind her on the road.